Hello, we have completed the pre-production and production process in our previous session. Today we move on to post-production and discuss the concepts of video editing and softwares that we could use. We have built up our story and ready with the videos we've shot. Before we move on to editing, shall we discuss the editor's role in storytelling process?
In each stage of the production process, there's a specific version of the story that you create. In pre-production, you wrote your story in the format of a script. During the production process, you created your story with your camera. Now in post-production, you will assemble your videos to create the final version of your story. So, when we tell stories with audio visuals, we accommodate three main visions. These are the writer's vision, vision of the cameraman and production team, and finally the editor's vision that materializes in the post-production.
When we present our stories as a written text, we use grammar to build our story. When it comes to storytelling with videos, is there any grammar rules that we should follow?
Yes, certain components of video grammar were discussed in previous sessions when we discussed about short scenes and short scales. In this session, we look at the grammar of video editing. Editing is all about assembly of shots into a coherent whole.
When combining shots, there are three primary modes of transition from one shot to another, namely cut, dissolve, and wipe. It's the cut that has become synonymous with the term edit. What are the uses of cut in video editing?
Cut is a change of shot from one viewpoint or a location to another. It changes scenes, it compresses time, and varies point of view. If we are to simplify the uses of cut, we can use it either as a mesh cut or a jump cut. Mesh cut is to establish the logical relationship between shots, where we try to maintain the time and space continuity of the scene, where the cut is invisible to the audience. If the shots don't match, if it creates temporal and spatial jump, we call it a jump cut, where the cut is visible to the audience.
Other most commonly used features in editing are fade and dissolve. How are these being used?
Fade and dissolve means a gradual transition between shots. You can fade in and fade out. Dissolve is a term used to express when one shot merges into another.
In a single scene, how could we use the concept of cut?
There are many uses. First, we will discuss about how to use inserts in your scene. Inserts can be either cut in or cut away shots. Cut in is where you cut to a close-up of your main scene to provide details of something visible in the main scene. Cut away is where you cut away from your main scene. We can also use the cut to change between shot scales. We can cut between close-ups, mid-shots and wide shots to provide visual detail in a scene. When you cut in a single scene, the most important thing to remember is to maintain the action continuity among shots. If not, it will create a jump cut.
When you're editing a dialogue, what would be the most basic strategy that we could use?
The most commonly used technique in a dialogue is shot reverse shot. Shot reverse shot is an editing technique where two characters were shown from each other's perspective or viewpoints.
So, a scene is an incident that occurs in a specific time and space. What if I want to show something that happens in a specific time, but in two different locations.
This is called cross-cutting or parallel editing. It describes action occurring at the same time in two different locations. Cross-cutting expresses simultaneity. It creates suspense, suggests parallels and contrasts.
Before we conclude our discussion on video grammar, shall we summarize what we've discussed? Let's start with the relationship between shots.
There are three types of relationships between shots: time relationships, spatial relationships, and thematic relationships.
What are the basic functions of these relationships?
Their basic functions are to ensure continuity. They organize separate units into discourse and create rhythm.
With this, we conclude the basics of video grammar. Now we move on to technical component of video editing. For that, we will require a computer and software. In choosing these, what are the specifications that we have to look into?
First, we need to understand our requirements. Most editing programs require a fair amount of processing power and memory. There are many editing software that you can download for free. Some of these software are very sophisticated and you need to have a powerful computer to run them. The best example would be DaVinci Resolve and Hit Film 4 Express. Unlike most free versions, they don't carry watermarks or video export limitations. But the drawback is they need good computers with graphic cards.
If we don't have high-end computers and if we are under a budget, then what would be our options?
Two of the most commonly used editing software by amateur video makers are Windows Movie Maker for Windows users and iMovie for Mac users. Both these software are user-friendly and was included as part of the package with the respective operating system. But you can still purchase them separately for a small fee.
In the next session, we will demonstrate the basics of video editing software. So until next time, goodbye.